You're listening to Heart to Hearts with Erica M., where midlife isn't a crisis, it's a calling. Unfiltered, unapologetic, and oh so real. Let's talk about it, shall we? Now here's your host, Erica M.
The following episode contains strong opinions, designer-level shade, and unsolicited truths about fictional fashion icons and the messy realities they represent. Listener discretion is advised, especially if you still think that Carrie Bradshaw was just misunderstood. By continuing to listen, you acknowledge that, yes, we will be naming names, fictional and otherwise, unpacking the romantic delusions of four archetypal women and asking the uncomfortable questions. Was Carrie actually the problem? Is Mr. Big just a narcissist in a better suit? And most importantly, why do we keep confusing chaos for chemistry? All characters' critiques in Cosmos are served with love, sass, and the occasional truth bomb. So grab your heels or your hoodie and let's get into it. Don't forget your drink. By tuning in, you consent to a full unpacking of toxic archetypes dressed in Manolos, delusional dating logic that looked cuter in the early 2000s, the spiritual cost of falling for potential, and yes, why Carrie Bradshaw might just be the most chaotic character in TV history. I'm not kidding. Like, who's really the villain here? This is not a drill. This is not a think piece. This is your wake-up call with a side of sarcasm and, of course, a strong shot of tequila truth. If you're ready to hear what happens when we stop pretending Sex in the City was relationship goals and start holding on to these women and ourselves accountable, sip that Cosmo, ladies, and press play, because we're getting started. Once upon a time, we were all told a story about a knight in shining armor, a glass slipper, a kiss that could wake the sleeping girl, and we were promised that love would arrive, that we would be chosen, that if we were pretty, patient, and of course pure enough, we would be rescued. But what if that knight was inconsistent? Or what if the slipper didn't fit? And what if we never if we were never asleep but just ignored and maybe even ghosted? Yeah, the fairy tale. What if the real fantasy all along was just believing we needed saving at all? I don't know about you guys, but for me, I was told to get a job, to always work, and to find a good man, to get, settle down, have kids, and create a family. And of course, the wealth would come through the marriage or the guy. And of course, that's what we looked for at a younger age. And I'm not, omitting myself from that, even though I've never been a gold digger. God knows I could have been married 155 million times by now if that was the case. But here we go. I'm going to unpack Carrie Bradshaw, her archetype, because what her self-proclaimed victimhood in the situation of the entire series has been such a misconception of love and also a misuse of power, personal power, that it just has to be talked about, and everyone happens to be talking about it. Who knew? But here we are. And so, was she just this dream, this woman, Carrie Bradshaw, the chaos of her life? She was the ultimate narrator of her cautionary tale. She was all of us, I think, all the protagonists involved, but really wasn't she more like a villain? Think about it. She's got Samantha's fire, right? The sexual inhibition, and she's definitely proven that through a lot of her antics. There's Charlotte's stoic faith, if you will, about romance and falling in love, and really it's just masked by entitlement, money, and status, clout, if you will. And then we've got Miranda's fear, her constant logic and progressive moves, yet constant demeanor of like she needs to get fucked really badly. Yeah, I said it. And then there's Carrie, who embodies all of those three, but she's got this quiet but very loud, somewhat desperation about her, because she doesn't go beating people up or constantly being like in your face like Miranda would and causing these balls out fights. She does in her way, right? Her own Carrie way. So Carrie Bradshaw really represented us. And for me personally, I definitely identified with her the most. Because back then, I didn't look at her in a bad way. I just identified with all the shit she was doing. And by that, I'm going to break it down a little bit. It's not that hard to understand, really, it isn't. But when we do look at it from the big scope of things, it kind of is pretty simple and pretty sad at the same time that now at 2025, and of course, after the and Just Like That series, which was horrific and is still, because I don't know when they're launching their third season, sucks. It's so bad. It's so bad. It's not even close to the original storyline, much less the characters. They're also like old and antiquated. It's like, can we get somewhere in the middle in this midlife where we're not old at 50 and we're not young, but we're experienced and wise and still good looking and still have style? Like, when did we have to cut our hair short and start covering ourselves up so much? And I'm not saying that's bad. Covering up is actually a pretty good thing nowadays. What I'm saying is that it's either one or the other. It's either black or it's white. But why can't it just be in the middle? Like, we're in our midlives. We have so much to have gained from. And yet we're sitting here, most of us, going, wow, was that it? This is it? This is what I get? I mean, not all of us. Clearly, some of us are very blessed. Yeah. And others are just pretending to be very blessed and very like happy, living in their golden cages and their golden lives, thinking that their golden pictures look real, but they don't, because people know what's real. And even if we're not talking about it, we all know that Carrie Bradshaw's image of Big was completely out of her own lack of self. And she had to kind of discover that through the series. But the more she did, the more she flawed. She would find a great guy that she said she wanted to be married. And although she never really quite said that, she mostly just, that was mostly obviously Charlotte. She went back and forth with Big in such a way that she became the tennis ball. And of course, Big wasn't going to commit to her. Who would respect that? He knew exactly how far he could throw her and when she'd bounce back. Sorry, ladies. If it's not you, don't make it fit. But I know I've been that woman, even when I didn't think I was, which I could probably say most of the time I wasn't thinking I was. But I was. I was someone's doormat. I was someone's tennis ball, and you could throw me against the wall, and I'd bounce right back. Maybe not right away, but eventually, because I didn't know self. So what do you call that archetype? The weakest? The weak link? What do we call me? I don't want to hear it. I know what it is. So let's get back to the ladies. So Carrie Bradshaw, Miranda. Let's talk about Miranda. Miranda's stoic logic always felt combative to me. It always felt so fake. And like, well, why are you even doing this if you're so miserable? She constantly had RBS, resting. I didn't even say it right that time. RBF, which if you know is resting bitch face. So there we've got it. Miranda, the Charlotte, the entitled, rich, Park Avenue girl. Miranda, the overachieving lawyer with so much to say. She should be on like the Democratic blue side, being progressive, which is what she is in real life. And then we've got Carrie Bradshaw, who's all over the place, who's chaotic, who's dramatic, who's never sticking to what she says, always allowing to be toyed with, sleeping around with various men, then going back to Big in between, having a commitment, being engaged, still sleeping around, him getting married and her still sleeping with him after he's married. What does that say to us all? Have we ever truly stopped and discussed this until now? No, we have not. But let's discuss it because, wow, what would we call her as an archetype? A whore? So she's the whore. Carrie Bradshaw has so many archetypes, it's quite literally hard to actually pin down. But she was, if in my opinion, you're sleeping with a married man repeatedly, knowingly, and you're engaged, that kind of in my book falls into whore. Call it what you want, like it or not. It is what it is. If the shoe fits, frickin' wear it, even if it's not the glass slipper. But she was throwing her feet into those glass slippers like it was hers, even after Big married Natasha. So listen, how many of you stayed with the man who was emotionally unavailable? My hands up. Who breadcrumbed you, who ghosted you, came back, ghosted you, came back, like a revolving door. If you're being honest with yourself, how many of you? Yeah. Sadly, too many. And that's got to change. And hence, the whole point to archetypes. Carl Jung put it beautifully. There's anima and animus, the feminine, the masculine. In each of us, in every person, we have both. It's the inequality and unbalanced natures of these two aspects that have gotten us to where we are today, which is OnlyFans. I think the number one thing that people do online is porn. You got it. Not corn, porn. And Don't get me started on that because my next episode will be about that. But what we're doing to a society and to our women is we're setting ourselves up. We're setting ourselves up and them up to think that that's what it is, the fairy tale, the white knight shining armor coming in to save us and rescue the damsel in distress, and maybe not the damsel, but the woman with the kids and the divorce. He's coming. Well, no, he's not. He won't. And if he does, he's probably got a shitload of reasons why he's attaching his blank to your wagon. Do you follow? There's many things that happen that we don't see behind the scenes. And most of them is because men know how to play us and they do it because they can. Not because they want to, but because they can. And yeah, they have their hamburger method. I don't even know the names yet, but I'm going to have another episode on this when they do their deductions by like, oh, you give this much and then you take 90% away. Then you take 85% away. Then you go back and you take 75% to the point where they are so used to you being breadcrumbed with X amount, then they reduce it. Then they reduce it. And this is the truth, ladies. I'm not talking out of my ass. This is spoken from men's mouths. This is how they play you. And you, innocently, mostly innocently, not all. And not all men do this, but most of them. And I've experienced it so many times by now. I think it's just a secret society, a code that men have and that they just know. You know what I mean? They have those silent nods and looks with each other. They have those codes that women break all the damn time to each other. Well, they keep them. And one of their methods is deduction. And the deduction is to get you hooked. And so that you're hooked, they can control you. They can come in and out of your lives. They can go ahead in and out, get the sex they want whenever they want, even if they've given you a ring, ladies, even if they've gotten you and married you by now. Maybe you weren't the one for them. That's why they married you. Maybe you were just the right one at that time. And that's what it is. You were the best one on paper. But mostly they don't look for the best one on paper unless they want to have kids and a family. And most men don't want that these days. They run from any kind of obligatory anything, much less a commitment to a family. And if they do have it, it's usually purposeful. You know what? Money's involved, family's involved, society, culture, just all kinds of reasons, religious faiths, etc. Which, by the way, Sex and the City never discussed really their faith or their religion or their God aspects. But they're quick to jump in and make another, I guess, and just like this, I don't know how to say this without sounding politically incorrect, but I'm just going to say it anyway because that's my platform, right? I can say whatever the F I want. However, not to insult people unknowingly or knowingly, because I don't know who's listening. And I really just lost my train of thought. Midlife fart right there. The bottom line is we've sold ourselves unknowingly into a storyline and a narrative that is built by antiquated ideas of how women should behave toward men that they like. When Carrie Bradshaw met Big, for instance, he was a successful man, well-to-do, worked in, I think, hedge funds, clearly was rich, and, handsome as hell, by the way, smoked cigars, so he's of a different status, wore great suits, had a town car waiting for him, spoke properly, and hell, was tall and like I mentioned, handsome. Who wouldn't like him? And there's Carrie, a little bit on the edge, brazen, bold, a little in your face, very New York, but hell, nothing special. Not till she really wanted him. And did she pursue him? We all know now that she did. Because he even married someone else while he was being with her. Huh. What does that say? How does that feel about everything? I think this is where I'm going to get more real. The illusion of being in a relationship with someone that you're not was the bottom line of that entire series. Until, of course, she convinced him that he couldn't live without her by going with Alex Petrovsky, moving to Paris, where he then comes to her and says in a whimsical way, I gotta have you. And her dramatics were, you don't get to have me. I don't live here anymore. And it's this big old scene, which I don't think I can put, but I'm going to try and put in this episode because it's so dramatic. And it's just like she's telling him. And I remember when I first watched that, I was like, yes, you give it to him. Tell him. But at the end of the day, she goes back to him because, of course, Petrovsky doesn't fulfill her needs and her idea of what this was supposed to be like, which was all about me, 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 me. Now, we both know a relationship takes two people. It takes two halves and two amounts of energy. And like I mentioned before, there's methods for men to use to get women where they want them without giving them a commitment, taking the milk from the cow, which is the sex before a commitment or a marriage. And you know how I feel about that because I've said it and I will say it again. I am not promiscuous. I do not sleep around, and I haven't had anything or anyone for almost 2 years now this August. And that's because I had to heal and find myself and get to the point where I'm at now, to find the archetypes that fit my new version of me in my midlife. And unfortunately, the whole Sex and the City crew did not jump on board with. Their narratives in their scripts now versus where it was before is even worse because now they're all progressive. They're all trying to be something they aren't and trying to convince us that it's, I guess, cool and or acceptable when none of them were like that before. So how they can flip and turn like that so fast, fantastically drastic is beyond me. So the writers who wrote that, obviously Michael Patrick King, and then I think I said that's his name. I'm pretty sure it is the creator of this entire Sex and the City, as well as And Just Like That. And I believe I'm hoping to be quoted correctly there, but if not, forgive me, everyone. The bottom line is it's written by a man who is a gay man. And his perspective, of course, joined with SJP, Sarah Jessica Parker, which is one of the executive producers. They're the ones who formalize everything, right? So they have to agree with everything, including not having the most amazing character on there, which was Samantha. And although everyone judged, crucified, and literally was like, oh my God, Samantha's too much, which, by the way, she was over the top. Let's be honest. I never felt comfortable with all her escapades and how she was so fragrant about it and yet so unshameful about it. Now, don't get that wrong. I don't believe that sex is shameful. And I certainly don't believe that at all. What I believe is the behavior that goes with giving yourself so quickly, so readily, and so fast all the time to anyone who wants it. I mean, ew. And yuck, I wouldn't want a man like that. And I wouldn't want to be a woman like that. And so everyone identifies with Samantha. But like when they did a poll, she was the last one everyone wanted to be like. But yet they identified with her. Talk about hypocrisy. When I say that is because, yeah, you'd like to be that wild, loose thing, but you don't want anyone else to know about it, but you won't even admit it. That being said, she was, I guess, in a very progressive way back in that day, because today it's very common to be like that, which is even sadder because we've accepted it and normalized it. And we've also normalized chasing men and like big, and maybe even not even like big, that are semi-qualified. Who does what for whom here? Like, why are we chasing men? Since when did that become our role in society? And since when is that okay that men do less? Breadcrumb, ghost, leave without notice, depart without an explanation. So F them, let them, okay? I'm hoping that you get what I just said because that was all a part of my last episode. That being said again, let me get into some of the Carl Jung's archetypes so that we're clear on the anima, the animus, and self, and blah, blah, blah. Give me a moment. So for the sake of sentimentality, let's talk hearts. To claim your archetype is to step into your true self. It's about shifting from being an option to becoming, in my opinion, a luxury. Because that's what we're going to call it in midlife. We're a luxury. To be with us is a luxury. Now, I am speaking to the people who have already done the work, who are in the middle of it or in the beginning of it. You are a luxury to step into your own, to step into your self-power, your worth, your respect, your love. That inner thing that no one can give you is so valuable and precious. It's priceless. And not everyone deserves to have that. Not everyone deserves to have access to your glory, to your luxurious self, your new midlife luxurious self. I'm just going to leave it there. You deserve the love. You deserve the respect and happiness on your terms in this chapter anyway. It's already been done. You've already made your mistakes. We've all done it. But our archetypes today in midlife, they kind of vary because we're mothers, we're ex-wives, or we're wives, or we're still figuring it out. We are many hats, okay? And so where does our own personal autonomy step in? When do we get to pull an archetype that's truly us? And that is something you get to define. And don't fall for the historical, there's only one archetype for every personality. That's not true. I can be the heroine, I could be the caregiver, I can be the lover, I can be the seeker, I can be the sage, and sorry for the background noise if there is any. But like you guys all know, I don't script my things. I try very much just to go by my notes. I do my research, I come on board, and I do what I've got to do. So if there's some quirky stuff that you hear in the background, forgive me. You know what I mean? It is what it is. So the masks we wear, there's a profound yearning that within each of us to unmask ourselves, and we have it because we have a hunger. We have this deep hunger that will go to any lengths to satisfy it, and we'll even compromise our autonomy. But oftentimes when we do that, we come back worse, and the society and the friends and the partners or the parents even expect us to be something that we're not. We then let them down, we let ourselves down, and we hold on to it, we store it, we process it. Sometimes we don't, most of the time. And so then we've got these ideas that this is who we are. So let's unload it. Let's change it. What's it going to take for you to say, okay, that's not me anymore? And this is when you start to peel back the onion. And so you don't settle anymore, and you don't the emotional breadcrumbing, and you don't step into something knowing full well that person's not going to give you anything that you want. And you don't open your legs, sorry ladies, you don't open yourself up to something that you don't even know. Someone you haven't even had more than an hour, if at best, conversation with. Over drinks or a meal, if that, because most men don't even offer that. Because most men just call you, text you, and say, come over. Are we being honest, or are we being honest? And how many do? How many of you do that? How many? Oh, because you got, I don't know, a bag out of it, piece of jewelry. What makes you different than the OnlyFans? Just because it's discreet? I don't know about that. He's got friends. He's got a mouth. Then again, you never know. And again, I'm speaking to a broad collective here, so I don't know who I'm talking to, but you know who you are. So archetypes are not only relevant for, let's say, therapy and analysis and psychological framing, et cetera, et cetera. It's a vital role for all of us in the storytelling of our lives. It really, really is. It's not outdated, and it is a positive thing. If you know who you are, then you can act accordingly, correct? But then when we fly through life thinking we're this or we're that, or we're comparing ourselves to these fictitious and, I don't know, these Carrie Bradshaws of the world that really mislead us, then what are we saying? We're so influenced that we better hold on to our knickers, because AI is right here and it's already set front and center, and it's telling us what to watch. It's telling us how to change ourselves by even just mere suggestion. Look around you, people. Look in LA. Look at every single person around you and tell me who doesn't look like an AI doll. Which one? Overprocessed in every single way, from hair extensions to fake nails to, yes, the obvious fillers and Botox, which, by the way, done on maintenance is perfectly fine. And I have a whole episode on what I think about that. But let's not forget that the mainstream of culture and pop culture is feeding us all of these narratives. And I want it to not be the guideline to whom you choose to be as you grow up. Now, I don't know how old you are, but when you get into your midlife, you kind of question a lot of stuff, especially if you're going through, like I mentioned earlier, a divorce, or you're in a marriage still that's loveless, or you're in a golden cage, or you have kids that are going off to college, or I don't know, leaving the home and the nest, and now you're alone, or you won't let them leave. And if they do, you guilt them back because you have no identity. So I'm here to tell you it's time. Time to look inside, time to look in the mirror, time to dust yourself off, time to pull your hair back, wipe your tears off, stop being the victim, stop acting like everyone owes you something. No one does. There is no white and shining armor that's going to come in and swoop you up and say, I love you, you're perfect, you're beautiful, you're everything. And if they do, whoa, you better hold on, because that's probably a love bomber, narcissist, painted up to be this charming, successful, witty gentleman that, you know, lives a great lifestyle, smokes cigars, has the best watch, wears Van Cleef, whatever, bracelets, is of the moment, has great friends or seemingly good friends, or just Instagram friends and groups, because that's, let's face it, the reality. And I don't know a lot of 50-year-olds that are still going out there playing the field, but those are the ones I don't want. And those are the men that I've dated. I'm done. I know who I am today. And now let's talk about what that is. Because honestly, It's going to be different for me as it's going to be for you. But at the end of the day, the only thing I want is for every single one of us to discover, uncover, and discard, rebuild, and have something that is our own unique representation of us. That's not that hard, is it? I'm talking about that luxury again. It isn't about opulence. It isn't about authenticity. That's just, let's say, authenticity that's layered with, how would I put this? I don't know even how to explain it, you guys. As I've been doing research and I'm listening to podcasts and I'm going out and I'm hearing things, and I don't want to down anyone because I'm no professional. I'm certainly not, and I don't pretend to be, and I don't want to pretend to be anything I'm not. So the mistakes you hear here, the information that's shared here, like I mentioned in the beginning, is it's all personal, but at the same time irrelevant to what we're talking about, which is the whole white and shining armor, the Carrie Bradshaw storylines that we all tried to live and miserably failed at. And now we're here in our mid 50s or 60s and we're like, well, that didn't happen and that didn't happen. And wow, that was really sick. That was really toxic. Why did I watch that religiously for so long? And now I'm wondering, wow, I was gaslit into thinking that's love. I was gaslit into thinking I'm not the prize that I have to chase or that I have to accept the breadcrumbs that are being thrown at me by whomever is interested. Sorry, Carrie, not me. So today I invite you to stop being an option and start being a luxury. Uncover your archetype, embrace your true self, and step into the life you were meant to live. You're not here to fit into someone else's story. You're here to write your own. Let's basically put it down. You're not an option, at least not anymore. You're a luxury. And luxury, like I said, isn't about opulence. It actually is about authenticity, not the authenticity, which is, I think, what I said earlier. It's embracing your unique value and, being in line with your true self. It's not something you do very easily. At least it wasn't for me. And when you claim that archetype or archetypes, you really do stop seeking validation from others. And that is the takeaway here, is to stop asking others to validate you, to make you worthy to receive love or to give love and when, to stop asking for opinions on how you look or should look, to stop getting the goalpost moved every time you think you get there but don't. It's not about all that. It's really, how would I say this? It's about kind of and this is going to sound contradictory, but it's kind of about being arrogant in a way, but not like the arrogant we're talking about, like the narcissistic arrogant. We're talking about arrogance that is the sacred power of self-definition. Just like a diamond, you don't need to do anything to get attention, right? You shine in that silence, and soon enough, all the eyes look for that diamond. Who's the sparkliest? But the diamond doesn't do anything to get that attention. It's already the diamond, because and what does a diamond come from? So furthering that, self-worth is the inner belief that you are valuable and deserving of, like I said, love, respect, happiness. And regardless of anyone's external validation, the only validation you need today is yours and God. I'm hoping God, because God is first for me in every way, in every shape, and always will be. And so, with that, I invite you to stop being the option, to begin being your luxury, uncover your archetype, embrace your true self, and step into the life you were meant to live. You're not here to fit into someone else's story. You're here to write your own. You're not the option. You are the luxury. And as far as Carrie Bradshaw, well, Carrie Bradshaw should learn when to stop doing something. Remember how there's always an exit sign and you got to know when to leave a party? Her exit sign has been blasting for a long time. And I love you, Carrie, but it's time to go. Your antiquated idea of how love should be or how love should have happened and how it should look was always toxic, always a mess, and certainly not something that should have been the guideline for all us 30-something-year-olds. And it sucks because we have to see it now and realize, wow, I'm part of that era. I did that. Yeah, it's 2025, so it's been a minute. How long has that been going on in your life? I know for me, it was an eye-opener. So all this, reemergence of Sex in the City and the Carrie Bradshaw truths, I should say, not degradations, but truths about her character, kind of hit differently today. I'm going to leave you with that, ladies and gentlemen, because, it's time to close and wrap it up. Not not one to beat a dead horse, but let's see each other next week when I actually unpack something kind of juicy. This one was going to be a little shorter because I promised myself I'd do it anyway, even if I thought, I'm not going to get political and get into the whole Hollywood drama. But hey, I had to get into it because archetypes are important and we've got to relate it to something and we've got to talk about something that we all can relate to. Do you know what I'm saying? I hear you and you hear me and we're going on that way. So there we go. So for all the flaws, Carrie, thank you. She didn't teach us anything bad or anything true, but she did teach us things that we definitely went through and we experienced, some of us, a lot of us. And though our life is worth narrating, a lot of us just need to dig deep and realize that there are no storylines that we can't write our own. All right, with that, see you next week. Remember one thing, you are worth it.
Thanks for joining Erica M. on Heart to Hearts, where stories heal, truth liberates, and midlife becomes your masterpiece. New episodes drop every Sunday. Subscribe, share, and meet us back here next week where the topic will be whatever she wants. Until then, stay bold, come back and stay beautifully you magnificent creature.